Hey guys, welcome back to Nikke. In today's video, we're going to be checking out Laplace's skills and talking about whether you should pull for her. Now, keep in mind that it is very early days. All we have is her skills to go on here. My general thing is always, if it's your waifu, go nuts. But with these type of things, we can make speculations on it. But if you're unsure, if you're not a whale, if you're free to play and you're like, I'm not too sure, just wait. We'll do some testing on it. And once some testing is done, we can get a better idea, and then I'll relay that onto you guys, and then you can make a more informed decision on what you want to do. But in general, TLDR, I think she's a really nice AoE damage dealer when you're not in full burst. We do lack... she's the first real main damage dealer rocket launcher unit, which I think is fantastic and definitely will have purposes against things like maybe the suicide bombing units and stuff like that. So I think she holds a lot of promise. But once again, I would wait to test her before going into it. But let's jump into her skills and talk about a bit of her playstyle and where I think she will be good. So first of all, the basics. She's an attacker, she's a rocket launcher, she's a burst 3, and she is an iron. Now, it's another burst 3. I've seen a few comments about people saying, why are we getting so many burst 3s? The fact that all burst 3s are basically 40-second cooldowns and most burst 1s and 2s are 20 seconds makes me think we're probably going to see a lot more burst 3 units introduced to the game than we will burst 1 and 2s unless something fundamental changes in the game. I just think burst 3s are where they're going to prioritize most of the new units that do come out while still giving us some burst 1 and 2s in between. I just feel like the majority will be burst 3. So let's check out her skills. First one, Hero Vision. It's a passive. Activates when landing a hit with full charge. Affects herself. Hero Vision, explosion range up 3.57%. Stacks up to 5 times. Lasts for 5 seconds. The stacking is very important when we do get to her burst skill. Next up, we have Hero Bomber, another passive. Activates when the last bullet hits the target, affects the target, deals 81.66% of attack as additional damage. And then we have a second effect. Activates when hitting the boss part, affects the target, deals 14.78% of attack as additional damage. So not too bad there. She's an interesting one because as we know with sniper rifles and rocket launchers, you can short charge them to get the last bullet effects more often. However, with her, I think it's going to be more negative to do so because that first passive is going to be more important, especially when we look at what she has in her burst ability. But in some situations, maybe if it's like a single target type situation and her burst skill's on cooldown, you may want to just short fire to get extra damage on an individual target if it's not AoE, because you're not really going to get any effects. So I think she's going to be an interesting unit to manual play because sometimes you'll want to fully charge and sometimes you'll want to short fire to get the additional damage. Very situational, but I think it could happen. And in general, I think anything that's going to boost her charging speed is going to be beneficial to her to basically tie into both effects that she has. So moving on from that, let's get into the burst ability, which is on a 40-second cooldown. Affects self, change the weapon in use. Max damage, 897.6. Damage over time, 14.52. Lasts for 5 seconds. Additional effect is Pierce, so she can go through enemies into other enemies, which is nice to get that AoE if they're stacked up. Affects the same enemy units when Hero Vision is fully stacked. Deals 11.9% of attack as true damage. So there's that extra thing that I talked about, why we really want to stack this buff, especially leading up to her going into her burst 3 ability, because it is going to give you that extra Pierce, which is going to be really nice on your damage. And this buff does last for 5 seconds, and this laser beam lasts for 5 seconds. So normally when you're fully stacked, you're going to be hitting a rocket, then going into full burst, and you'll get that additional effect for the full duration of this weapon. So really nice effect. And in general, I think it's just a really solid damage dealing kit. And like I said at the start, we haven't really seen any rocket launcher main DPS, and I feel like that she's like the first one. So I'm really interested to see how she plays into the meta at the moment, and definitely going to do some testing with her because, like I said, we talk about the suicide bombing units that jump in. Normally they drop 4 or 5 or 6 at a time, and if she's got that explosion radius where she's able to hit them all and actually nuke them all because she is a primary damage dealer, I feel like that'll be an amazing effect for some teams, not requiring you to go into full burst to get an AoE to sort of wipe them at higher deficits depending, all that sort of stuff. So I think she could find some definite use in campaign and stuff like that from there. But the main use that I can see her having is if we go over here and we look at the Gravedigger. Just keep in mind that the Gravedigger is not the end game. So probably wouldn't be pulling her just specifically for this, because once we do clear chapter 16, we will get another boss. That's a while off for a lot of people, but like this isn't the full end game, but maybe having a copy might get you some extra gear and help you progress faster. Not too sure. But basically when we look at this boss, its weak point is iron, which she is. So she's going to have the advantage against this boss. Also, typically we know that the meta for this boss is shotguns, but I also think that's because we don't have any viable damage dealing rocket launchers at the moment, and I think she really fits into that blend of being a viable rocket damage dealer. And I think on top of that, sorry, I'm losing my voice as well, and it's a bit echoey because the room's empty. But on top of that, I think like her laser beam as well, especially, is going to be really good for those QTE, the quick time events, the red circles, to get them down. But also, if she's got that explosion radius, she's going to do that, and also she's going to have the extra damage against boss parts. So, like the way I think this will happen is that if she increases her explosion radius, even on other bosses, it's just going to mean that she can hit multiple parts at the same time with that explosion, meaning she's going to get extra damage on all of them. And I think she's actually going to be a really good boss unit against certain bosses that have really close weak parts that she can hit with her rockets and sort of really cripple them. And then on top of that, she's just got mad damage for that 5 seconds of her laser beam. And you can definitely couple her with things that give her attack buffs and stuff like that. And a lot of like really strong buffs are for 5 seconds. So you can really like play her with strong buffs to sort of try and nuke things super fast. So when we jump back over into the game, I want to take a look at a couple of units that I think will pair decently with her in general. And if we go over here into Wikipedia, once again, this is all a bit more theory crafting because we do have to test her and find out exactly where she's at. But if we jump over here, something like, for instance, Maxwell here activates when entering full burst, affects 2 allies with the highest attack. And we do get that charge speed, like I mentioned, and we do also get a 43% attack. So that's a really nice effect to bring in just to help buffer. I think Maxwell has some nice synergy. And I'm just looking for units that aren't the stock standard units that everyone's using, you know, like your Litter, your Dollar and stuff like that. The other one that I think goes really well is Alice. I think her in a team with Alice and Maxwell could be really interesting to see if you've just got those units. Because over here, Alice as well activates when entering full burst, affects 2 allies with the highest attack, charge speed up 11%, and charge damage up 7%. So we get that really nice effect. And basically, if you pair her with these two, and then you have, say, Alice as your second highest damage, and Laplace as your highest damage, then they're both getting those 2 buffs, and they will just absolutely nuke enemies. And I think it could be a really solid combo to see how it plays out. Now, I'm not saying that's the best combo. I'm just, like I said, trying to work in units that aren't the top tier meta units that could possibly have some synergies if you do have them in there. So I feel like that type of synergy could be really nice with her. Once again, we will do some testing and find out. But in general, I think she's just going to be a really solid all-round AoE damage dealer and not a bad one to have. The one thing that I want you guys to remember is if you're looking to pull for a unit like this, just keep in mind with the select banner, especially for free to play, it may be more beneficial for your account to hold out for future banners once you've got more tickets saved up so that you can maybe try and summon one of these exclusive characters all the way to 3 stars so that you have one of your 3 stars ready for the 160 limit breaking. Now, I'm not saying like that's all RNG on your account and stuff like that, but it's definitely something to think about. But I think that just about covers it for what we have now on Laplace. She drops in the morning. We'll definitely do a bit of content on her. We'll have a bit of a play with her and see what we can do. But anyway, guys, that is going to be it for this one. Thanks for watching. Hope you have an awesome day, and I look forward to seeing the next one. Cheers.